Hey guys, hope everyone's having a good day. So today, by request of a person in my comment section, am going to do a technical analysis on Camryn Rogers. So for those of you who don't know who Camryn Rogers is, she's the Olympic champ, defending Olympic champion and world champion, and the NCAA record holder for women's hammer and the Olympic record. Actually, sorry, no. Not the Olympic record holder, the world championship record holder for women's hammer. And overall, very good thrower, obviously. Her coach is Mo, who was the Cal Berkeley coach and also the former coach of Mikola Zelekna. You guys all know who Mo is. And yeah, overall, fantastic thrower. I'm going to say some things in this video that might be a little controversial, but I will explain them, and hopefully they will not be taken out of context or the wrong way. So, let's get one thing out of the way before we actually start with the technical analysis. And it's, you got to treat the women's throwing events different than the men's events. And I'm not saying that to be like sexist or anything. It's because they just throw them completely different. Because the women's implements are so light that the woman can just get away with doing a lot more crazy stuff compared to men. All right, that's why you'll see women's hammer throwers. They look way different to men's hammer throwers. Same with shot put and discus. Like women shot putters don't really have that much separation, while women's discus throwers have way more compared to their male counterparts. Men's hammer throwers tend to have a way bigger counter due to the ball just being heavier, which means that there are more forces being exerted through the throw compared to women. And I don't think Camryn Rogers is like the best technician. She's a very good technician, obviously, because she's an 80-meter hammer thrower. The fourth woman to ever do that. The others being Anita, Deanna Price, and Brooke Anderson. I happen to think the best technicians ever for women's hammer are Deanna Price and Anita W. I can never pronounce her last name, but you know who she is, the world record holder. And when I make this analysis on Camryn Rogers, I just want you guys to keep that in mind, because you're going to see, I'm going to point out some things that men should not copy. I don't think men should copy really any woman throwing, just because it's just so different. It's just so different to how you throw like a 16 and whatnot, that or a 2K, that it's just two completely different sports, honestly. Not to say one's better than the other, but they're just different. All right, and you guys got to keep that in mind during this video, and honestly just when throwing. All right, so let's get into this. By the way, you can't really see it. So thank you for oops. Let me go back. Oh, I'm going forward. Of course. Okay, I know you can barely see it. But this is from Don Babbitt. You guys don't know who Don Babbitt is? He's the coach. He was the former coach of Reese Hoffa. I think he coached Adam Nelson for a little bit. He's my favorite shot put coach of all time. He's the coach at Georgia, and just probably him and Arvenegas are the GOAT shot put coaches. I've already made an entire video on my favorite throws coaches, and Don Babbitt I glazed him quite a bit. All right, let's just leave it at that. So, yeah, but thank you. He has a YouTube channel. He's always at all these big meets and stuff. This is NCAA's, and yeah. So thank you for him for providing this film. Very good angle, also, which is hard to find. So I guess those coaches can, whatever. Let's leave it there. All right. Okay, there we go. The wind. So, the wind, pretty standard. I think she drops it a little bit too much at the low point, but like I said, women can just kind of, especially in hammer, they can kind of just do whatever, to be completely honest. That 4K, honestly, a lot of women can't even feel a 4K, to be completely honest. They kind of just throw that thing around, and can throw it far just because, I mean, it just weighs nothing compared to the physical specimens that these women are. Like, Camryn is strong as almighty, and like, yeah, it's just, yeah, but she does a good thing, she does a good thing here. She does a lot of good things, but one thing I want to point out here, because this is just really a standard wind, is she lets the hammer go before she steps in. And that's really good pretense to how you want the turns. So when you see people do step-ins, I see a lot of people step in and then the hammer goes around. You don't want to do that. And I know this seems like a very minor detail, but it's a very important detail, because what the winds do is they're a pretense to how good the throw is going to be. And the wind is basically to establish feeling and rhythm of what you want during the throw. All right, so you want in hammer, which is completely opposite to shot and disc, you want the implement to go first, or the upper body to go first, and then the lower body, which is completely opposite. All right, to shot and disc. Which is why hammer throwers are usually just hammer throwers, because they're really weird feelings that really screw up shot and disc throwers, and vice versa. That's why it's very rare to see people good at multiple events. Like, that's what makes Maggie Ewan such a standout. But this isn't about her. This is about Camryn. So she does this very, very good, where she lets the hammer go ahead, and then she steps. And what I kind of don't like, I know a lot of people do this, is that she kind of goes side to side instead of back and forth. That's another thing that women can kind of get away with. For men, you'll tend to see a lot more of them. Like, so, it'll be some men who go side to side that are just like physical anomalies. But for the most part, you want to be a lot more stable. You don't want this much movement in the upper body. And basically, you want to be a lot more, I guess the word's solid, not rigid, solid, in your upper body and stuff. Like a Lance Deal or something. You will see people with more dynamic winds, like a Kipway Johnson or Koji Murafushi, that wind a little more like this, with a lot more upper body movement and exaggerated movements. But for like beginners and like intermediate to advanced people, even, like, you want to stay a little more centered, pretty much. But as you get better and better and better, and you're stronger and stronger and stronger in your hips and your core, and your back, you can get away with stuff like this. If you're a guy, woman, you can just do this. And this is like that. This is one of the big differences, is how you wind and whatnot. Like, you can just get away with a lot more movement when you're a woman throwing hammer, especially someone as good as her. And yeah, so I prefer a back and forth movement rather than side to side, because I believe, like, the back and forth leads to establishing a better rhythm for your counter and how you want your body to move through the turns instead of side to side. But this right here, the side to side, is going to lead to probably the biggest difference I see between, especially the way Camryn Rogers throws, but women in general, and how men throw. All right, but let's get to that. So she enters, sits back really nice, and she's just going to stay like that the entire time in this position, really. Obviously, it'll get high and low point better. But let's see. So where does she actually establish the connection? Right there. So now it's in front of her belly button. I do like she's not pulling her head. So what I see a lot of people do... actually, let me back up a little bit. What I see a lot of people do is they will pull their head around and then the body will go, because they feel like that's them moving really fast. However, now you're just moving your body fast and not the implement. So I actually like what she does here, where her eyes are actually slightly behind the hammer and just really establishing connection with it. So that's very nice. This is a good position. The thing is, if you're a guy, I don't like this position really. I'd prefer them to be a little more back here, in a little more like this kind of angle. Okay, that's a little extreme for the first turn. Like that angle. One of the only people I've seen actually ever get away with this kind of first turn is like a Vadim Debutovsky, who's... I've done a video on him. He's an absolute freak of nature. 84-meter thrower. Just an absolute stud. But he's one of the only people I can see where their chest is actually forward and not back. Back here somewhere. And this is what I mean. Like, her chest is forward the entire time. And she just kind of just stays there. You see, like, there isn't that much of dramatic... Don't worry, I'll backtrack and go through each of these turns. But you notice there isn't, like, that much of a dramatic, like, sit back. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, because it's a 4K and it doesn't weigh as much. So then that leads to two, you don't have to counter it as hard. Nor should you, because it's... And I might get flack for saying this, it's just an easier implement to throw. Even for women, it's pretty easy to throw it. That's why you'll see a lot of women, they'll have very far throws a lot earlier than male throwers. Because compared to how strong the women are compared to the weight of the implement, the power to weight ratio is so significant compared to a male throwing. So like a freshman in college woman throwing a 4K, it's going to be a lot easier for them than even a freshman guy throwing a like 6K or 7K or the 7.26K when they're first starting out, just because it's just so different. And this is what I mean. Like a guy by let's see, which turn? What is this? Okay, so this is the first turn. By the time a guy will get like to a second turn, they would already be like back here. All right, they would be sitting back way harder. But for Camryn Rogers here, she kind of just stays in that quarter squat. And then right here on her fourth turn, she does get a little deeper here. But that's still not that far back, honestly, to be quite honest. But again, she doesn't need to. Almost all the women really throw like this. They don't have that deep of a counter. All right, and it's because they just don't need to. So why bother? Even like Anita didn't really have that much of a counter, to be completely honest. Now, she probably had one of the better, like, most counters out of women, which I think is a big reason she threw 82.98 or something. It's basically 83 meters, which is just, she's just something else. But yeah, and you will see that Camryn Rogers kind of rises a little bit too as she starts to throw. So she starts really low. Honestly, she kind of throws a little like Vadim Debutovsky a little in terms of the fact that she stays low and then progressively rises. Where you'll see most male hammer throwers, they will progressively get lower and lower and lower through their turns. Just because they're countering harder and harder and harder. Yeah, like she's just not sitting back that much. And again, that's not like a diss or anything. That's just what it is. This is about the counter that most elite hammer throwers on the woman's side have. So it's a big difference, which is why I've had athletes ask me like, oh, maybe I should throw like Camryn Rogers, like male athletes. I'm like, no, don't do that. All right, like maybe at lighter weights, like if you're a youth athlete, you could. But like this position right here, that 16 would pull. Oops. God damn it. Really, you're gonna make me? Okay. Oh God. Okay. Sorry. Right here, that chest is too forward. Right there. That chest is too forward. A 16 would pull you. Would immediately just pull you that way. And like you need to sit back more. Now, I know I'm seeming like I'm just like not talking that great about her technique. For now, I was explaining the difference between the woman and the male. Now let me just actually analyze her in terms of the scope of woman's hammer. And I think she's a fantastic technician because you kind of have to be to throw 80 meters. I don't care like if you're a male or a female, you have to be a good technician to throw 80 meters. Just like you have to be a somewhat good technician to throw 70 meters or 22 meters or 90 meters and, you know, shot, disc, and hammer. Like, you just got to be a good technician. Doesn't matter how strong you are. You could be the strongest person on the planet. You're not throwing that far without good technique, all right? So, and I don't analyze people with bad technique, first of all. I know I've had some comments like, oh, you're like, I wouldn't make videos on people that don't have good technique because there's just a waste of my time. And, you know, every elite thrower at least does almost everything pretty good. There'll be some weird things that some throwers do, but there's a reason they're elite throwers, because they have good technique, all right? So, now off of that spiel, what she does really nice here, she gets super long. She lets it super far left, which I see a lot of people don't do. Male or female, honestly. And you got to let it left. You got to let, just like Sean disc, you got to have weight over your left foot. All right, I know you have to sit back, but the thing is, if you sit too far back, you take weight off your left. So you have to find that happy balance. All right, so you don't want to take weight off your left because it'll just be just like Sean disc. You'll start going to that side, you'll start pulling, and you'll just throw off your entire axis of your throw. It's just, that's one of the similarities between Sean disc. You got to keep weight over your left foot out the back. All right. So let's get here. And she gets a very, very nice orbit. I love her orbit. It's super nice. Really good catch position here. All right. Turns. Hammer is slightly behind her, just a little bit, but you get that when you're getting at these speeds. So a lot of hammer throwers that are elite will either have the hammer around their belly button, or if they're a right-handed thrower, their right knee. And she is going off her right knee. So that's very good, in line with the right knee. Very, very nice. Letting the hammer rise gradually. There. Very, very nice. Alright, starts to stand up a little. And then sits back down. So she has very, very short, like, single support phases, which I love. Like, yeah, she gets off the ground there. It's only a couple frames, really, until she gets back down. So very, very nice. Super nice fourth turn. I love her fourth turn. Really nice there. And then her release. I love... This is what I respect with, like, her and Koji, especially, is that they can throw these kind of distances and stick the finish. A lot of hammer throwers you'll see, and they will spin around, they'll do a bunch of stuff, which isn't necessarily bad, because when you're throwing these distances, you're just trying to hang on for dear life, and just try and stay in the ring. So do whatever you can to stay in the ring. But it's better to try and just stick the finish. And why is that important? One, that means that you're perfectly on balance, and that you're in complete control of the throw, really. And two, and arguably more importantly, it just looks cool. But seriously, it's the first one is is more of why that's important. And it'll just lead to more consistent throws. It just says that you have better fundamentals, that you can stick the finish really. Um, at like comp speeds. Now, like every elite hammer thrower could stick a throw at like training speed. Um, it takes a different level. And I just named two examples. Not like those are the only two throwers in the entire history of hammer throw that can stick a finish. Um, but yeah, like fantastic thrower. I know I said a lot of what seemed like negative things, but it's not negative. It's different. There's a big difference there. No pun intended. But they're just two completely different events, men's and women's hammer. Just like men's and women's discus, men's and women's shot put. Well, javelin might be the exception. They're not that different. Javelin throw honestly has like the least variation between male and female because there aren't really that many different ways to throw a javelin. And then hammer thrower is probably like the second with the least variation. Discus is probably the most. Like some people could just do weird stuff in discus. But yeah, overall fantastic thrower. And yeah, I mean there isn't that much really to say more than that. I mean all her turns pretty much look the same, which is what she went with hammer throwers. And she doesn't really do anything like egregiously bad or anything that I can point out, especially in this throw. I picked a really good throw. It's the NCAA record. But yeah, there's a reason why she's a good thrower, because all her turns look pretty much the same. And, that's what you want. In terms of, like, the quality of the turns. Obviously, there'll be different angles and stuff, but, like, they'll be sitting back gradually more and more and more. But what I mean by, like, the same is that there isn't, like, one turn that looks like, wow, that looked really weird. Like she pulled on turn 3. No, she didn't do that. Or, like, she didn't sit back enough, or she lost her counter or something. Though you'll see with, like, beginner, advanced, and, like, intermediate people. Alright, but, hope you guys learned something, and, thanks for watching. See y'all later.